It was February 23rd, 2014, when then 19-year-old Jackie Lithgow was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition.
The first words we got were, "We have 72 hours."
Doctors told Jackie's parents that their son had suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
We got past at 72, and then let's see when he comes out of the coma.
He would spend 15 days in a coma while doctors surgically removed pieces of his skull. After surviving 6 brain surgeries and a life-threatening infection, he still had a long road to recover.
I knew what I wanted to do. My body and brain just wouldn't listen to me.
With such severe damage to his brain, Jackie would have to relearn how to breathe, eat, walk, and talk all over again.
I think that, with me completing my college degree, I think that that was a big accomplishment that I wanted to do. It was the next step in my recovery.
Well, last week, Jackie Lithgow completed that step and graduated from Bloomsburg University, and he joins us now with his proud parents, Lisa and Jim, from their home in Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Jackie, I look at this. You were 9 months before you were discharged. I think that's somewhere around 265 days I read that you spent in the hospital. How do you process it now, knowing you got that congrats balloon behind you, your parents are there at your side, you did it, you reached that goal?
Yeah, it started out as, a dream, it was always a goal. And then after, going through what I went to and the setbacks, I think that just kind of motivated me more to achieve that goal. And really, it's really a lot of support, and it was a team effort, to get me across the graduation stage. And that goes, of course, from family to therapists to doctors, and I can name a lot of people,
right.
But it goes, through a lot of different people who have helped me get me to this point.
Lisa, when I, first read the details of that accident, there he was trying to break up a fight, and the incident turned violent. He was injured there. As a mom, especially of a son, you think you're going to send your child off, and the worst thing you might hear, okay, I got my heart broken or something, dating, not mom, or a call from someone saying your child may not live. I don't even know how I would process that. Take me to that day when you found out about his injury.
Yeah, so it's one of those calls, you hear that it happens to other people, but you don't think it's ever going to happen to you. And we got the call that Jackie had been injured. We didn't know how bad he was injured, but we knew he was heading to a hospital. So we got in the car right away. Our home is about 2 hours away from the university. And on the way, we were just sick. We had no idea. We didn't have details. So halfway there, finally, the ER doctor called us, and the only thing he asked us was, how far away are we?
Because he wanted you to make it to say goodbye, or they didn't think he was going to make it?
Correct. The swelling in his brain and the bleeding in his brain was so bad that it was really touch and go. And when Jim and I finally got to the hospital, we were met at the door by a social worker and a chaplain.
Oh, my goodness.
Took us immediately to ICU. And when we got to ICU, Jackie's bed was just surrounded by so many nurses and doctors. I can't describe it. It's not something I ever would wish on any other mom or parent.
I know. So Jim, the doctors gauged the severity of a brain injury, and as I understand, Jim, Jackie's injury was given the most severe ranking. As Lisa pointed out, you're going to hold on to hope because you're parents and you have to. But the diagnosis from the doctors was very bleak.
Yeah, on the Glasgow scale, 3 to 10, they give you a scale, how alert and how he's functioning. He was on a 3. He was at the bottom of the scale. So that part was not good for us. And then, of course, we were up in the waiting room, and they were monitoring the pressure in the skull, and they had to take one flap off of the skull. But they also said at that time, if the pressure doesn't relieve with the one flap, we'll have to take both off.
Wow.
Well, he was, we hadn't seen the doctor for hours, and he comes up and said we had to take both flaps off. So, we're still in shock. I mean, we're sitting there, drove 2 hours. We still don't know how we drove those 2 hours.
Right.
To get there. And then we were just, and then we just started praying, and that's all we did.
While you were just talking there, I got goosebumps, first of all, because to your point, I can't imagine anyone can accept that type of shock and that type of trauma. Jackie, you're tearing up. I see it because you've been through a lot. But today is about celebrating what you've overcome. So you recover, thank God, and you go to rehab. And then there's the decision that you are going to try to go back to school. Was that a family decision, or did you say, Mom, Dad, I got to finish this. I got to do this?
Yeah, it was definitely my decision. I know I had my family's support, my parents' support, and they helped me, get through a lot of my recovery, and basically all my recovery, and I got to the point where I felt like I was ready to go back to college, and I was ready to finish my degree. And I was not at the time. I was still struggling sometimes going up the stairs, and I would have memory issues, like recalling where I went to class, how to get back to my dorm room. So it was definitely, I think it was a little premature, but I think it definitely helped me get better in my recovery and helped me, get to where I am today. So it was definitely an individual, decision to go back, but I definitely had, my parents' support.
Where did you, pull the fortitude to do it? Because a lot of people, I always talk about fear, and fear can be paralyzing. You stay in place. You can say, I'm afraid to go back. I'm not ready to go back. The minute you forget where you are on campus, that sense of loneliness and helplessness. How did you overcome those daily obstacles, down to sometimes forgetting where you were standing?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. I had to, get in the right mindset. From the beginning of our, my recovery, we had a saying, it's not a sprint, but a marathon. And I had to, I'm kind of impatient. So I like, things that happen right away, but I had to get in the mindset of, okay, I don't have to do it, I had to do it step at a time.
Yeah.
That way I can achieve the goals, the small goals.
Yeah.
And then when I achieve those small goals, then the bigger ones will come. So yes, it was definitely, something that I had to overcome. But I think, what happened was when I went back to school, you talked about this, I would call my mom and I would say, okay, how do I get to class? And I remember, it being hard. And I remember, okay, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah.
And I took, a class with my major that I had just switched to before my injury. And I went to the class and I didn't know anything that was going on. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know, if this is something that I want to do.
Right.
Maybe this is a previous, before injury, this is something I wanted to do, but maybe not now. So I remember her telling me, well, let's talk to your advisor. And so I went and set up a meeting with my advisor, and she gave me some different things I could try, and ended up with the mass communications major, went to the introduction class, and just fell in love with it. And
I love that. I love that you
Mhm.
picked communications as your major. Lisa, how did you let your bird fly? I think that's the thing. We say to these college graduates, and they're all in our virtual audience, you're now in the real world. Y'all were in a real world that folks cannot imagine. How did you let him fly so that he could eventually walk across that stage?
Yeah, it's so funny that you say, fly, because I talk about my kids, Lindsay, our oldest, who helped us along the way as well, and Jackie, they're my baby birds, right? they're my little peeps. And so letting go is hard. Even when they were growing up, I wanted to keep them in bubble wrap. So you get the fortitude, you pray, and you want to raise young, independent adults, and you want them to have a successful life. And so you send them off to college and hope for the best. And we kind of had to let go twice this time. So we let go the first time, got the call, went through quite a bit, and again, had to to rely on faith and know that Jackie's fortitude would get him through, and it was meant to be. He didn't work that hard for so many years to not let him do what he wanted, and that's what I relied on to let him go.
Well, he did it, and he's an inspiration on so many levels. Congratulations, Jackie. Jim and Lisa, thank you. You have so much to celebrate and certainly a long list of things to be proud of. So thank you for sharing your story, and happy graduation.
Woohoo! Thank you.